Hi, a very good afternoon to all our participants. Thank you all for joining in. Hi, Bharat, Bhaumik, Chetan, Divyal, Forum, Gunjan, Hilag, Mauli, thank you all for joining in. Parvati, thank you all for joining in. Good afternoon, Gunjan. Well, it's a lovely Friday afternoon and time to begin with a new series of its kind, To the Point. With the regular flow of webinars and online learning platforms during this pandemic, the participants are also looking at content that makes a solid point and answers these queries straight away. To the Point is a short and direct style of information presentation. Thank you for joining HRAI's one more unique and futuristic series on To the Point, where our experts will be purely focusing on what our participants want and give them what they are here for. Request our participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines flashed in the chat window. We are focused on having an effective session and your feedback will help us. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request you to participate and kindly give us your feedback. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for our today's session, Mr. K. Rajeev Narayan, founder and CEO, the Leadership Element TLE India. Mr. Rajeev comes with 21 years of immense experience in corporate and global consulting in the learning space. He is a certified global leadership coach and facilitator who has worked with many organizations across the globe in building leadership capabilities. He now runs the Leadership Element TLE India, which is India's only book-based leadership consulting house. Rajiv is a voracious reader and works in challenging the immunity to challenge its leaders, organizations, and communities. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. Details have been shared in the chat window. I now welcome the moderator for our today's conversation, Mr. Samrat Ghosh, founder GlipTalk. A corporate geek with 14 years experience in service industry, worked with largest IT and ITES conglomerates in the world, such as GE Capital, Dell, Tech Mahindra, Capgemini, TCS, and now heading the entire Pan-India Revenue Center for one of the leading e-commerce brands in India, a certified Six Sigma Black Belt from PMI, an advanced RPA professional from Automation Anywhere and UiPath, CMMI, ISO implementer and practitioner. On the other was the first ever Hindi radio jockey appointed in 93.5 Red FM, Hyderabad back in 10 years. Presently pursuing his passion by hosting a free online talk show named Clip Talk with common souls by articulating their journey on a canvas under the tagline An Inner View of a Great Mind and a Known Face. You can also follow him on LinkedIn. Details for the same have been shared in the chat window. Samrat will be talking a little more about this initiative. Over to you, Samrat.
Thank you so much, Peter. It's indeed a pleasure. Very good evening and welcome to the point, ladies and gentlemen. Again, as I mentioned, thank you, Peter, for the wonderful introduction that you've given for both myself and Rajiv. Uh, Definitely, it's a pleasure to be part of this wonderful initiative with the Human Resources Association of India. Thanks to you and thanks to Ankita and the entire team for organizing this. Well, I will not take much of your time, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking this time out. I hope all of you are at home, safe, and with your family. Today's discussion is apparently a little different from the rest of the webinars that you've been attending or the masterclasses, apparently. Well, To the Point is an initiative for the very first time that has been happening and it would happen over a period of time. And you will get to know the notifications and the details about all of these going to be coming in the different multiple forums, be it WhatsApp groups, in the social media platforms, etc. Well, when the entire world has been attacked with pandemic, we all have gotten into the virtual world that has become the new normal for all of us. Having said that, when the entire world has gone into different kind of webinars, learning sessions, everything for free, this initiative To the Point is apparently just to the point. We will not talk anything apart from the questions that we have received from all of you. Sincere thanks to all of you for sending all those questions. It apparently shows the kind of effort and energy that you all have put in. We've been overwhelmed with the questions that we have received from all across the globe, all across the participants, and a lot of you out here. It is definitely humongously impossible for us to ask all the questions. I think we will take 5 hours to answer and ask those questions with the speakers. Well, what we have done for the best interest of time for everybody for the next 1 hour, we have summarized all of the questions. We have seen there are some similarities. We have seen there are some commonalities in certain questions. We have clubbed them together and put in our best of our effort to ask all those questions to our speaker for the day. Well, today's To the Point is apparently segmented into five major pillars. The first one is accountability. The second one is leaving a legacy. The third one is loyalty is about contribution and just not time. The next one is execution. And the very last one is lifelong learning. Well, the overwhelming questions were very, very difficult. And we were actually wondering, how do we answer those questions? Well, that's what we have the speaker. I graciously welcome Mr. K. Rajeev Narayan, the founder of the Leadership Elements India, the founder and the CEO. A very warm welcome, Rajeev. It's a pleasure to host you for the event today.
Thank you so much, Peter. Thank you so much, Samrat, Ankita, and HRAI to have me here. It's an awesome pleasure to be here, and I think it's a great initiative. To the point, I love the concept, and we have Samrat, who else on the other side, so it's going to be exciting for me.
Thank you so much, Rajeev. As we rightly mentioned, that we would be asking those questions in a rapid fire segment where we would be just asking the question, and Rajiv would definitely clock those answers in the limited period of time. We would be asking those questions for the first 45, 50 minutes, and if the time permits, we would be taking certain live questions coming from your way to ensure your engagement is apparently absolutely persevered for this particular initiative. Well, this is the quintessential and the rudimental need for all of us not to just get hovered around, not to go ahead and keep beating around the bush, not to keep seeing those PowerPoints and the master classes. This particular initiative, do not get diluted with the thoughts in your mind. This is just straight to the point. Well, as we mentioned, and as I mentioned, there are five segments. So the very first segment of our To the Point section today is accountability. So Rajiv, I'm going to be asking you the very first question. I'm sure that you would be definitely adding value by answering this question for the participants that they have sent to us.
I'll
The very
surely make all the attempt.
is on accountability. Uh, Rajiv, what, according to you, what are the key elements of accountability?
That's a very powerful question to start with, Samrat. I think for all the listeners, with my experience of having been on the corporate side, I think it's important before defining what accountability is. There is a myth or a confusion that needs to be first addressed, right? People kind of use the word accountability and responsibility very loosely. Right?
Right.
It's important for us to understand what are these two words primarily. They are not the same. They are exclusively different, and one engulfs the other one. Right? It's important for us to understand that. Right? Now, what is accountability? It's a larger word. Responsibility is a lesser word that sits inside accountability. Right? Now, if you talk about elements, before elements, I would want to talk about what is the direction in which accountability goes and what is the direction in which responsibility goes. Let's understand these two sides first, right? Now, responsibility is always for the tasks that you have on hand. Completion of those activities is responsibility. Whereas accountability is for the larger purpose, is for the larger result or the outcome that you would want to achieve based on the completion of these tasks. So when I say I'm sitting as head of somebody or I'm sitting as a manager and I'm responsible for this team, that's a wrong word. You're responsible for the activities, but you're accountable for the team. So let's understand that we should not use these words loosely, right? If you go by the elements of accountability, there's a very powerful book called the O's Principle. And through this next 1 hour, I'm going to be talking about a couple of books which I think are very powerful, and it's advisable for all the listeners to probably pen down those books and go and pick it up and read it. I run a book-based leadership consulting house, so a lot of talk is going to come from those books that I've got inspired by, Samrat, if that's okay, right? So the book called O's Principle is a powerful book on accountability, written by Roger Connors. He talks about four very powerful elements of accountability, and he gives a very nice acronym called SOSD. See it, own it, solve it, do it. See it, own it, solve it, do it. I think it's one of the most simplest form of defining accountability, not discounting the essence of the word. What
Right.
does it mean? See, it is very simple. A person who is saying, I'm taking accountability for thing should be able to see the problem, which means you acknowledge there is a problem which is existing. I need to solve it.
Right.
Own it, you take complete ownership for it. And when you say ownership, it's about being part of the problem as much as being part of the solution as well.
True.
I'm
True.
sure all of us must have seen many leaders who come at the solution stage. That's right. You should be at the problem stage as well. Then you say, yeah, I take complete accountability of the line and length of the situation. So that's own it. Solve it is you sit with your team or sit with yourself and figure out what are the different ways in which I can probably solve the situation.
True.
And finally, SOSD, do it is yes, once you have defined the actions, get into the action and execute it. So somebody who does this four goes through the entire line and length of accountability. Then I would say, yes, this person has displayed accountability. So in nutshell, the four elements of accountability is see it, own it, solve it, do it.
Brilliant. That's exactly what the endeavor is, to the point, it's all about. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you must have seen the very first question that has been asked from one of you, and the answer was just crisp, just to the point. And that's exactly what the endeavor is all about. Moving on to the next question, Rajeev. How do we define what accountability means at an organizational level? Is it resilience, a desire to continuously learn, or a strong sense of ownership and responsibility for one's work?
Lovely. Uh, Again, a couple of things that needs to be understood. In any human behavior, whether it is accountability or anything, there's always an input, there's an output.
Sure.
There is a stimuli and there is a response to a stimuli.
Yes.
Now, the words that you said, which is resilience, lifelong learning, are all inputs
Right.
towards the output that you desire, which is accountability. So if I'm constantly learning, then I'm figuring out multiple options through my learning journey to be far more accountable to the task or to the work that I have on hand. If I'm resilient, which means I may go through the ups and downs of my life or at work, but I'm still holding on to perseverance to
Right.
finally display the result that I want to achieve. Which means accountability is always an outcome or an output of the other words that you said. So in an organization, if somebody is resilient, if somebody is learning, if somebody is working on a few things, these are all inputs towards himself or herself to prepare himself or herself to display a high order accountability. And this high order accountability, in the same book called O's Principle, the author calls it beautifully as above the line accountability.
Right. Right.
What is above the line accountability? A simple example, right? If I give you Samrat, which one do I take? Let's say a Bisleri bottle that says 98.6 percentage germs free. Would you buy it? Why not? 98.6 is good, yeah. You're only talking about 1.4. We Indians are anyway, we got some element of immunity within us. Ab le lo na. But you
True.
wouldn't. Even if I tell you 99%, you wouldn't. You want 100% germ free, then you will go and pick up that bottle.
Exactly.
It's what accountability is all about, right? It is always 0 or 1. You either display accountability or you do not. You can't say I displayed 97.6% accountability, balance chhod diya main. Doesn't work.
True.
So all these other words are input. Accountability is always should be seen as output in terms of behavior.
So it's a true binary. It's 0 or 1.
Always binary.
Brilliant. Well, to the point, the next question, Rajeev, to you is what are the characteristics of an ideal accountable person?
Very interesting. Okay, so we spoke about what is accountability. We spoke about what is input and output, right? But
Correct.
the only characteristic, leaving all other long and lengthy conversation that can go for many hours, I'm
Right.
trying to focus to keep it to the point. If you see an individual who is ready to be part of the entire continuum from the identification of the problem to living through the problem to figuring out possible solutions to the problem and finally coming up with a solution to the problem. If somebody displays those behaviors across the line and length, I would call him or her having a good accountability character. Else, it's an escapist attitude because you would want to exit at certain points of the continuum. Ki, yaar, ye ho nahi raha, let me drop the ball. The problem seems to be so big that I don't want to be part of it. I exit. I've found the problem. I'm trying to figure out solutions. I'm not able to get the solution. Let me exit. I've
True.
got the solution. I'm trying to execute it. I have problems at execution stage because of people issues or environmental issues or process issues. I exit.
True.
There is a delay for the solution that I want. I want it in 3 months, but I'm getting it after 8 months because of whatever reason.
Right.
I exit because I'm not perseverant to stay on.
Exactly.
If anybody exits at all these different points, I don't think the person is displaying a high level of accountability. Why? Because if you're exiting at any one point of the continuum, then you have been responsible for that phase. You're not accountable for the larger entire length, right?
Right.
I think if you see somebody doing that, then you can surely go and pat the person's back and say, wow, I've met an accountable person after a long, long time.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you, Rajiv. I think the three questions in a row, apparently you answered them so beautifully. And it's truly magical to hear the questions that has come from the audience.
Absolutely. Very powerful questions.
Thank you, audience, for the wonderful questions. And Rajiv, thank you so very much for answering those questions so impromptu. Brilliant. Well, the next question coming in your way, Rajiv. How to make accountability a core part of our culture and a core value of our team?
That's a very lofted question,
Right.
right? In a time when all of us are baffling and battling around accountability at an individual level, to put it at an organization level becomes even more difficult, right? I think the responsibility, well, I will put the word responsibility, I say the accountability of the leaders to create a culture of accountability is paramount, right? Now, there was a survey done sometime, I think 2014 or 13,
Right.
which spoke about what is the accountability way forward or quotient in organizations. The survey that was done was staggering data that came out, right? Almost 75 to 86 percentage of people said we don't have clarity in our goals. One, we do
Right.
not know how our goals are aligned to the organization's final dream or vision, whatever you want to call it. Three, we do not know what the organization is wanting to do in the next 1 year, 2 years.
Sure.
What does it mean? It's not a very pleasing data, right? And 75 to 86 is quite a high number. It's a worrisome number for all of us to think and ponder upon.
Sure.
It clearly means that if you want to create accountability in an organization as a culture, it becomes absolutely important for leaders to do three things very clearly. Ensure that every employee has got absolute clarity on the goals and the results that they have to deliver.
Right.
That's one, but that's still not done. They need to definitely know how are their job responsibilities linked to the organization's larger piece.
Right.
I have worked with an earlier organization called TVS Motor Company where I was leading the learning and development for them. Now, one greatest learning of my life, Samrat, that I had was we had a document for the CEO, which was the annual operating plan. Below him, people like us as leaders, we had our document. Below me, people had their own document, would go to the last person. Can you believe all the documents were so beautifully aligned that if you go and tap on one document which is at the bottom, you can hear the sound at the CEO's document. Almost like that Golconda Fort, नीचे ताली मारो ऊपर आवाज आता है.
True.
That kind of coherence if you have,
Right.
then that's a matured organization where accountability has been built as a culture.
Right.
You don't have any room or a window open for somebody to escape out. So more than giving clarity to Rajeev as an employee on his targets or Samrat as an employee on his targets, it becomes important for the manager to tell Samrat and Rajeev how are your targets aligned to the organization's larger goal.
Right.
If that alignment is there, I see a larger purpose.
Yes.
So I think in organization there are three very important things that people talk about, and we keep talking about in our intervention. There is something called a job responsibility. There's something called a link responsibility. There is something called system responsibility. Now,
True.
many individuals are myopic and they work only on their jobs. Some of them expand and work on interdependent departments. Now, there are people who take accountability. They work for system responsibility. आज अगर मैंने अपने टेबल पे एक पेन को यहाँ से यहाँ मूव किया तो इससे कंपनी को क्या फायदा होगा?
Correct.
इस पेन को अगर मैं यहाँ से यहाँ रखा तो मेरी टीम को क्या फायदा होगा? Are we able to think that? We're able to create that. Then I think accountability can become a culture in organizations. And that's one reason, what? In the last, probably I can safely say 2 decades or 1.5 decades, accountability has become one of the value words for very organizations.
Sure.
In the 60s and 70s, accountability was taken as a task. Aapko karna hai kaam. There is consequences to it.
Hmm.
Today, accountability is a core value that organizations want to establish. It itself means you're elevating the meaning of the word, right? And bringing it to a value of an organization, which means every employee has to live it
Live
from
it.
the CEO to the security.
Brilliant, brilliant. I think that's exactly what we call visionary thinking is all about. Visionary leadership is all about. If you don't own it, and coming back to your same point, right? Own it, solve it, do it. The four thing that you talked about. I could truly resonate, Rajiv. Thank you so very much for answering that particular question. The next question is apparently a little complex question. We would definitely not let you go answering the questions very thoroughly. It's a very jeopardized question, but a brilliant question. I don't know who the participant is, but thank you so very much because it will definitely take some time to think over and just give that answer. But I'm sure knowing Rajiv's competencies and his leadership qualities, being the CEO of a company right now, it will be a cakewalk for him. So, Rajiv, in the accountability section, the very last question that is coming in your way is emotionally and psychologically, what
Mm.
really creates a sense of accountability in a person for any activity, irrespective of its being office or any other space?
Mm.
How do we measure the contribution of an individual where there is a shared or a team's overall accountability as well?
Well, that's multiple questions put into one. So I need to break it and answer that. Actually four questions into one question. And I would want to definitely acknowledge and compliment the person who has sent this question because the four parts of the question is actually a one-day workshop in itself. So
Sure.
compliments to whoever asked that question. Let me try answering. I don't know if I can do justice to the question, but let me attempt. Uh, let's again look at a continuum kind of a format, right? Now, there is success and there is failure on two sides of a continuum. Very clearly, as I told you, that accountability is binary. It's just you don't need. It's just common sense that if you display accountability, you are on the success side. If you do not, then you're on the failure side. As simple as it,
Correct,
right?
correct.
So that's one. Which means you always have to be displaying accountability above the line. Now, one of the reasons why people display accountability below the line, right, and that's an emotional bit, is they don't want to take that accountability on their shoulders. And one convenient route they take is blame others. Excuses start coming in, right? Now, once you start covering your tail and once you start blaming others, what happens is it creates negative emotions. That's another angle to accountability. And more negative emotion starts flowing inside you, you will automatically stop taking accountability and you will drop the ball.
True.
So whether a person emotionally takes a job, whether at work or in personal life, wherever it is, the moment you decide to take accountability, let's understand you have no room to stay below the line. You are constantly above the line, which means you can't become a victim of a situation and go down. You have to be consciously saying, I've taken this, I'm going to deliver it, which means I do the SOSD for sure, and then stay above. Right?
Right.
So that's one. What was the last bit of your question? Could you repeat that for me? Let me try connecting that.
The very last part was how do we measure the contribution of an individual, whether where there is a shared or a team accountability is concerned?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, there's a very powerful concept which is emerging nowadays, that democratic leadership, right? As against the earlier days of autocratic leadership. Now, in a democratic leadership space, one thing is very clear, that there is heavy interdependence. Now, because of which there is a perception that it becomes a gray area, because I cannot identify Rajiv's accountability and Samrat's accountability or somebody else's accountability, because
Right.
all of us are working together seemingly.
Correct.
Is that a fact? Is it a myth? I would want to throw it back to the audience. But let me try to answer with my limited experience. It's a myth.
It's a myth.
All of us are working towards a larger purpose. Like Simon Sinek in the book Start With Why talks about the why of everything. What is the purpose of everything? If that is very clear, and the goal for Samrat and Rajeev and other team members are very clear in their documents, then it is easy for us to clearly evaluate what are the deliverables of Rajeev and what are the deliverables of Samrat. Now, a matured organization that defines these and ties them can clearly measure it. An
Okay.
organization which is not mature just creates a document and says, Acha, now Rajiv and Samrat, please go and figure out how do you want to deliver it. This confusion is bound to happen.
Right.
So I think that is where you go back to the earlier question, right? That larger purpose and target align to everyone's document.
Hmm.
It should land on Samrat's document, it should land on Rajiv's document. If it lands, then you can definitely find out what are Rajiv's checkpoints, what is Samrat's checkpoints, what are Rajiv's managing points, what are Samrat's managing points. How is Samrat helping Rajiv in one particular target in his completion? How is Rajiv helping Samrat in one other target of his? So the interdependency comes beautifully and seamlessly, right? Which is link responsibility we spoke about. I
Correct.
think leaders, when I say leader, in this example, Rajiv and Samrat's boss should be matured individual to be able to do this and give that clarity. Unless it's going to be an absolute murky and a gray space, and three of us are going around and round and round and round.
Yeah. It's like going to be so vicious, right? So you will not be able to
It's
get
going
into
to
any
be.
kind of, and
It's
that will
going to
make
be.
it like tough for everybody.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So the very last question that we would be asking you in this accountability section, being one of the pillars of today's discussion, would be what are the lead and lag indicators of accountability?
From an organization perspective or an individual perspective?
Both, probably, an individual or an organization perspective.
Okay, let me try answering that. So what's a lead and what's a lag? Uh, a lead is something which is an input, where you can clearly figure out what is going right, what is not going right, and address it.
Right.
Lag is something where it's a postmortem. So it again comes back to the same conversation. It may sound repetitive, but I would want to repeat it once again for the benefit of all the listeners. When an organization starts in the start of the year and you have the entire 12 months in front of you, when the entire system sits on creating an annual operating plan and defining such accountabilities that we spoke on every employee's document, then you have made it a lead document or a lead measure. Because wahan se, you know what are the graphs, what are the metrics, what is the upward graph, downward graph, all that is very clear. You only have to have what? One simple, powerful tool, which is called continuous review mechanisms.
Correct.
Yeah, you have not done any review. You
Correct.
are going to be battling around with the lag data, which is not going to give you anything because you are then doing post-mortem work.
Exactly.
So if you go by lead indicator, I would always go back, and I come from a total quality management space, Samrat. So I think processes are very important for me.
Right.
Organizations are run by people and processes, and people are custodians of process, not the other way.
Correct. Correct. Very true.
It's important for us to get this document for all the employees, starting from the top man or woman, in place. After which you will have clear lead indicators that you can work on. And when you have lead indicators, you know what to address at what time.
Correct.
आपको पता है कि एक ग्राफ ग्रीन होना चाहिए, नहीं हो रहा है, you know अगले 15 दिन में हमको क्या करना है, so that
Exactly.
the graph can move up by 1 basis point. If you don't know that, then you are only working on something which is big that you want to achieve at the 12th month, and you still have only 6 months to go because you have lost 6 months any which ways.
Very true.
It sounds a little foolish, isn't it?
True. And if I may add, Rajeev, I mean, with my little amount of experience, the AOP is annual operating plan, which is defined in two categories statistically. If you talk about it, one is quantitative, one is qualitative. And every goal in that AOP that we are supposed to achieve, some organizations, they have their AOP for the next 5 years. And it is all have to be hovering around SMART, right? Which is SMART, which is sustainable, which is, all the four measurable. So everything has to be accountable and measurable. If there is no quantification, there is no measure. And in the typical Six Sigma terms, we can talk about define, measure, analyze, improve. That all hovers around your TQM management, what you have mentioned. So I think that's brilliantly answered, Rajeev. And
I mean, all of us know this very powerful statement of Peter Drucker: something which is measurable is achievable. As simple as it.
Absolutely.
I mean, your event called to the point is also measurable. We want it to the point. We don't want to go around and round and round.
Correct. And there's the reason I said that, it has to be like the SMART goal, which is specific, measurable.
Yes.
What does A stand for?
Achievable.
Achievable, yes. Achievable and time bound, right? And definitely relevant.
Yeah.
So brilliant. Thank you so very much, Rajeev. That's how we end our accountability section. for the day in this today's to the point discussion. We're moving on to our next segment, which is leaving a legacy. The very first question on leaving to legacy, Rajeev, according to you, do you think that how does a legacy-driven mindset define leadership?
Very powerful. Um, so what is legacy?
Right.
Right. Uh, Legacy is not a present tense. Legacy is a past tense.
Sure.
As a word, it's a past tense.
True.
You want to leave a legacy means you want to be remembered after you have left the place. When people are talking about you in your present, that's not legacy.
Correct.
That is just compliment, which is current. Right? So that's first clarity we need to have. Now, what happens when legacy and leadership in organizations are tied together? Right?
Right.
A leader who is wanting to be a leader and recognize when he or she is in the organization has one strong drive, and I assume everybody has it, is to contribute to the larger purpose of the organization.
Very true.
When that purpose is very clear, then all my efforts and behaviors are towards achieving that, because I want the environment to see me doing that, either in thoughts or words or actions. When people can see me doing it in thoughts, words, and actions, and I am helping myself and my team to achieve the purpose of the organization, then I'm displaying a high level of leadership in the organization. Now, why am I doing that? If you go a little deeper, psychologically, when I leave the place, I want the system to remember a Rajeev Narayan tha. Wow. I don't want people to say, hey, Rajeev Narayan tha. Oh shit, bach gaya, chala gaya. I don't want that. So that's a very strong drive. The beauty is the desire for a compliment in the future in my absence is driving me to do something in the present. Look at the beauty.
Right.
It's actually a very powerful psychological game, isn't it?
True.
I may leave the company 10 years later, or I may leave it 5 years later. लेकिन बाद में लोग मेरे बारे में अच्छा बोले. Hence, I'm going to display certain high level of behaviors where there is definitely a current selfish reason of achieving my targets and goals and becoming good and getting awarded and R&R and all the stuff that we keep talking about. But a larger piece is I want to be remembered after we leave. So if you link these two, a very strong drive to leave a legacy defines and redefines the leadership quality that one wants to display at work.
Very true. Brilliant. And that is definitely nonetheless not compromising on your unyielding integrity.
Absolutely. And integrity is any which way is going to be visible in actions and behaviors, right?
Absolutely. And that's what the true definition of integrity is: do the right thing in the right way when no one is viewing.
True.
Right. Great. So the next question, Rajeev, what are the benefits of creating a leadership legacy, according to you?
Benefits of leaving a legacy.
What are the benefits of creating a leadership legacy? I think it's more or less in the same pattern, but yeah.
There's only one selfish benefit, and let's all accept it. Let's not shy away from it.
Right.
We may talk कि हाँ वो है ये है organization के लिए मैं जीता हूँ. All that is fine. Let's understand the current world, right? Even in the earlier to millennials generation, I heard a very powerful statement that I read many years back. It said, people love to live in a world that they believe they have created. I repeat.
Very true.
People love to live in a world that they believe they have created. The most powerful phrase of the sentence is, they believe they have created. It is not that others believe, they themselves believe. What does it mean? It means today, I am not somebody who's wanting to live long in an organization and die for an organization. I'm more worried about my career and what can I contribute in my role. Right? If that is what I'm doing, then when I'm wanting to leave a legacy in the organization and I display those behaviors, the selfish motive is by doing things right, I display the right behaviors. So leaving a legacy leads to the purpose that I want to achieve. If I achieve that purpose, I become visible, so it leads to visibility. And if visibility happens consistently and continuously, my credibility builds. So I want to leave a legacy because I want to work for a purpose of the organization. When I work for the purpose of the organization, I become visible. When I become visible multiple times, my credibility is built. And when it is built, there's a brand that gets created for me. And I know बाहर की जितने सारी कंपनियां कल को मेरे को बुलाएगा नौकरी के लिए.
Right.
If I grow within the system, super. If not, I have a larger canvas because I've already built a credibility and that is being visible to the system outside. So for all of us leaving a legacy, the biggest advantage is a very selfish advantage of being visible to the environment and creating a brand for yourself so that you accentuate your growth opportunities. And I don't think anybody should shy away from this. The outcome of this is anyway benefited by to the organization because you're contributing to the organization, right? You're not doing something on the road. You're doing within the boundary of an organization. The फायदा तो company को मिल ही रहा है. But I think it's more selfish. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
And leaving that particular legacy behind by a leader's job is to inspire trust, right? You have infused and inculcated that particular trust and you left your footprint there because which would be remembered forever. So I think a beautifully answered question, Rajeev. Thank you so very much. That's exactly shows the kind of experience and the learnings that you've had so far in your life. Moving on to the very next question coming in your way. The last question probably in leaving a legacy section. So one of the participants asked that as an individual, how can I decide what my legacy would be? That's one question. There is a follow-through question after that also. Once I decide what would be my legacy, how can I create a roadmap for achieving necessary milestones? And how this realization would transform my life and others around me?
Again, compliments to the person who asked this question, but these are 3-4 questions together once again. So very heavy questions. Let me try answering that.
The audience have actually spent a lot of time thinking through.
Seriously, I mean, quite a qualified audience. Yeah, amazing questions. I don't know who's come from. I got Bharat, Ritu, Chetan. I don't know who asked these questions, but powerful questions. All right, so let me try answering this. So this very powerful workshop or a program, whatever you want to call it, called 7 Habits of Effective Leadership. Run by Franklin Covey as an organization, which is a global consulting body. But the concept was created by Stephen Covey. He talks about leaving a legacy through a very powerful video. He says there are 4 L for any individual that they should do it all through life.
Right.
Live, love, learn, leave a legacy. Live, love, learn, leave a legacy. Right? Now, if you take this a little further and expand it, how do I know what is going to be my legacy after 20 years? It's a very tough question, right? What you're asking or what the audience is asking is a very futuristic question. मुझे पता भी नहीं है कि क्या करने वाला अगले 20 साल के लिए. And if this is a question thrown to a guy who's 28, 29, just stepped into a corporate world, and you ask him, tell me, buddy, what's your legacy at the age of 40? बोलेगा सर पहले मैंने तनख्वाह तो आने दो, बाद में legacy की बात करते हैं.
Right.
He will say, my first focus is bike लेना मुझे.
True, very true.
No, it's a very tough question, right? It's a very heavy question. However, is it answerable? Absolutely answerable if the individual at 28 is mature.
Right.
And what is maturity? That's where I'm coming to. Today, I run a company called Leadership Elements, which works in the space of building human capabilities. You are somebody who's running this workshop and you're running this event as a moderator, and you have been on the radio for many years. You're working for an organization as well. What's your passion? You will definitely say this, Rajeev. नौकरी तो चल रहा है, घर तो चलाना पड़ेगा ना, तो चल रहा है.
Very true.
The point is, I think 28 or 32 or 35, that's just a number. It becomes very. What is that one thing that they want to do in life very clearly that they know is going to be the most passion-driven thing for me? If they're able to identify that early in life, and the earlier the better. I delayed it.
Right.
It took a good number of years for me to understand, Acha, this is where I want to be. I'm an engineer, then went on to work in the sales space for many years, and then realized, Acha, this is what I want to do, which is learning and development. If somebody can identify that little early in life, and there's a very powerful concept called the flow, and I would urge many people here, in fact, all of you to go and pick up this book called The Flow. It's written by an author, very complicated, almost Arnold Schwarzenegger jaisa naam hai. The person is called Mihaly 610 Mihaly.
Okay.
It comes with a very powerful concept called flow, and he says flow is that particular stage in life in which every individual experiences the highest level of ecstasy, happiness, pride, satisfaction, sense of achievement, everything. And there is nothing like a gravity which is pulling him or her down. कि ये मुझे नहीं करना है. You'll jump off the bed to go and do that. Now, if all of you can identify what is it that flow that makes you really jump off the bed at 2 a.m. and do it, and if you can find that out early in life, then you tread your path in that line without wavering. And if you can do that, then your three idiots का जो dialogue निकल के आएगा कि यार excellence के पीछे दौड़ो, कामयाबी झक मार के पीछे आएगी.
Very true.
Because you are passionate to do that. You may want to become a violinist, you want to become a research person, you want to become an artist, a sculptor, you want to become an RJ like Samrat, go ahead. And the best part is all of us are living in a world where there is umpty number of opportunities. Again, the time when I started, not to sound very old, we had engineering, doctor, chartered accountant, kuch tha hi nahi.
Oh.
And I'm an example here. My father wanted to make me an engineer because he had the pride of calling me the first engineer of my family. Abhi tak mujhe nahi pata us degree ka kiya kya maine. The only advantage of the degree I had is it got me my wife because my father-in-law is an engineer and he wanted an engineer as a son-in-law. So bach gaya main. I was in the selected file, not in the rejected file. Other than that, the degree gave me nothing.
Right.
The point I'm trying to drive is, had I found out my flow at that time, I would have probably invested a little more years in something else.
True.
Having not lost anything, I think my suggestion to all the people here who are in their own journey of leadership growth is, please guys, go back and figure out what is your flow point. What is the mojo that you get by doing something? 2 baje are able to jump off the bed and do it without any element of tiredness. You may have hit the bed at 12, but you can jump it at 2. ये अगर हाँ मिल गया आपको अंदर से आवाज which is amplifying and resounding enough, tread that line, you will definitely leave a legacy.
And so with the flow point, I think there is an inflection point also at the same time, right?
Absolutely.
And then you apparently decide कि आज मुझे यही करना है. I think this is it. And that's exactly, I think, what has driven you leaving a corporate life, which was probably comfortable for you, heading the L&D department for a renowned organization there in the country, and then doing something on your own, which you are equally successful.
Very right. But the point is, whether I'm playing the role of an entrepreneur running a company. Earlier, I was heading a corporate. At some time, I was working in a global consulting organization. If you see, these are 3 different roles, but the purpose is still impacting human lives. That is the flow.
Right. Brilliant.
That flow. It's okay to make some little changes which are affiliated to the core purpose. वो चलता है.
Correct.
But get that, guys, quickly. The earlier you get that, I think you have a longer life to leave a legacy.
Brilliant. That's how we end our Leaving a Legacy segment. Moving on quickly to the next segment, which is loyalty is about contribution and not time. Well, Rajeev, brace yourself. The very first question coming in your way is, what is balanced loyalty and how can it be useful in the corporate world?
Very interesting question. Very, very interesting question. We are in a world of millennials.
Right.
I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old son who comes and tells me, Papa, I'm in my pre-teens. Tell me, why should I do that? So I sometimes think, अच्छा उसने ये start with why Simon Sinek का किताब तो पढ़ा नहीं है, लेकिन अभी से उसको why का जवाब चाहिए.
Correct.
Really, he doesn't get the answer to the why. He's not going to move his ass an inch to do something.
True.
Right? Now coming back to this, what is balanced? It's a very powerful word. I think in the balanced loyalty, the prefix is more powerful than the suffix word. Balanced. I'll go back to my son and daughter once again. In our days, or in my days, when we used to grow, my father would get such chocolate for me because he knows that I like 5-star as a chocolate. I still love 5-star as a chocolate. He would get a 5-star for me and I would eat it. I would give a piece to my brother. My brother used to like dairy milk. He must have missed buying a dairy milk for my brother, which is okay.
Right.
If I go and get a chocolate for my son and I don't get something which is liked by my daughter, घर में महाभारत हो जाएगा.
Correct.
So it means they have defined that when you go out, you get what each of us want for both of us. You either don't get for us or you get for us. If you can take the small analogy into the organization, a balanced loyalty is very simple. As an organization, are you able to align that individual preferences and choices employees have to the organization's preferences and choices. If that alignment is there, if that why is answered, then employees stay loyal. Why? Because today, all the employees are not wanting to work for an organization for many, many years and serve and do all that, which is a final outcome. I'm not saying no to it, but they're more focused on their career. As long as their personal aspirations are fueled within the environment of the organization, they are ready to stay with you for a longer time. So, balanced loyalty means it's important for the HR, and I'm calling HR here because they are the custodian of people in any organization, which are they get punched every side, right? Right. And I don't know if Ankita is here. She would be laughing in or probably getting upset at me. Now, the HR people have a big responsibility to ensure they're able to create a situation where the employee is able to relate his or personal aspirations to the organization's aspirations. And the HR is able to do something where the organization is able to come down to the level and understand what are those individual aspirations of employees. You run a show where you use a word called interview, right, Samrat? That's a very powerful word. It is not interview, it is not interrogation, it is interview, which is going and knowing the inner of a person. Now, if the organization can get that and accordingly give opportunities and movement and growth, then it becomes a very balanced loyalty between two entities called the organization and the employee. Without this, if you expect the person to just deliver and stay, I don't think that's possible. That's why I always keep telling that loyalty is not in terms of time. It's always in terms of what extra percentage over 100 have you contributed in the time that you spent with the organization.
And I think with that, you have answered the second question that I was coming to ask you. That was what is the importance of loyalty in a professional life. So I think you balanced it there also, Rajeev.
Okay.
That answers the second question that I was coming up with. Well, the very next question is, what is the difference between cognitive and attitudinal loyalty?
All right. That's a very interesting question, right? So what is cognitive? What is attitude? Let's kind of get these two words, right? Now, when for a human being, right, all of us go through a learning journey. We keep learning all through lives, right? Whatever we learn first, they say it addresses our attitude. The why is nothing but the attitude. Till the why is not answered, we don't want to go and seek knowledge.
Sure.
Till I didn't know why I'm in this event, I would not have even come to the event. Till you did not know why you're doing it, you would not have come here to moderate the event. Similarly, all the participants would not have come till their why is not answered. So for all of us, once the why, which is the attitude, is answered, we may be wanting to move to the next stage where seeking knowledge. Now, knowledge is cognitive, whereas attitude is very innate, right? Now, when you talk about loyalty and add it to these two already complex words, let me try to make it simpler. A cognitive loyalty is a loyalty where somebody is attributing his or her loyalty only to the completion of responsibilities and tasks. They do not give any importance to what the organization is desiring. They do not give any much value to the larger value system of the organization and the larger purpose of the organization. They're happy doing that and may take it. Whereas when you talk about attitude and loyalty, then you rise above that job description document of yours and move up to think what additional can I do where it's going to have an impact on the larger purpose. I'll go back to my earlier organization, TVS itself, right? The TVS Motor Company is known for quality. Anything you do is all about quality, right? Many of you must have seen this TVS 50, TVS Champ moped,
Yeah.
right? Which was one of the biggest creation by the organization, which contributed to the farmers and that straight off society. So all of us had a tremendous pride that we are an organization that has touched such people. And any product that we release has an impact on human beings who are Subha se Sham tak, they're living their life for taking care of their family. That's what we are. We are not into the Mercedes Benzes of the world. So that understanding was so deep that the loyalty in everything that you do would always be, Acha, how is it living to the TVS's values? Are the customers going to see that there? So let me deliver it to that level. And what does it mean? I'm being loyal to the larger purpose of the organization. And the outcome of the loyalty is I will give my 100% to deliver what I'm expected to deliver.
Sure.
So loyalty is not staying in the system, right? The loyalty is visible of how much more than 100% has a person contributed. If a person has done more than 100, super loyal. If it's 100%, loyal. Less than 100, not loyal.
Well, with the best interest of time, we have another, I think, 10, 11 more minutes. We will quickly wrap this question. So, Peter, please allow us because the conversation has become very, very intense. The questions are so brilliant that I myself I'm taking time to think through and ask those questions because I myself need to understand what I'm going to ask my speaker as a moderator. So, brilliant questions, audience.
Absolutely,
I think
Samrat.
all of you. So, Peter, do we have a couple of more minutes? Can we overshoot?
Yes, absolutely, Samrat. You can go ahead.
Great, great. Thank you, Rajeev. Thank you very much for the answers. The last question in this particular segment, which is loyalty. I think another brilliant question coming in your way where the participant has asked that what is the role of a true leader in fostering employee loyalty and what all steps leaders should take to do that? That's question number one, which is like clubbed. And then followed by how effective connected leadership model is in achieving employee loyalty. Why is it so important and must not be ignored? Wow.
Very heavy. Very heavy. All right. So the first half of the question is already answered in the earlier questions, Samrat.
Right.
Leaders, if they're able to create an environment where the personal aspirations are aligned to the organization's aspirations,
Right.
where every task of moving a pen from one point to another point is clearly defined to a larger purpose, I think loyalty is established. So that's an answer to the first part. I wouldn't want to elaborate that further. Come to the second one, connected leadership. I don't know who asked that question. Again, huge compliments to that person. I don't know if the person has read the book and asked the question or how it is, but I would recommend all of you to go and pick up this book called Connected Leadership by Simon Hayward. Samonhayward. The book I think came sometime in 2013, 14, 15, उस period में आया होगा. And it's a very powerful concept called connected leadership. And this was inspired by the retail industry. In the 1980s, retail industry was growing. That time they saw three things: customer loyalty, profitability, employee experience.
Correct.
And they said these three are important. And we as a retail company or industry have been working silo on addressing each of these. Are they not interconnected actually? And suddenly, wow, a eureka kind of a thing happened in the retail industry saying these are definitely connected.
True.
And if we don't work towards all these three together, then we are being foolish. That's how emerged this concept called connected leadership. And Simon Hayward is the father, I wouldn't call him the father, but the biggest propounder of connected leadership in the world of management. And guys should go and read the book. It's a powerful book. I mean, it's almost a 3-4 days of workshop that you can run on the book. Let me try to do justice to this question. What is connected leadership? In an organization, it is all about one word called alignment. This alignment can happen by a couple of things. Can the leaders in the organization establish through their behaviors by which expect a similar behavior from the team members, and that behavior is authenticity? Are they authentic towards the employees, towards the growth of the company, and towards the customers? If yes, it's connected.
Correct.
Are they able to be agile together in tough times like this, where there are ups and downs and uncertainties? Is everyone from the top to the bottom able to do something displaying agility and the freedom to make changes and course corrections towards achieving the three things, which is again profitability, customer, employee experience? Then you're connected leadership.
Wow.
An organization is able to establish this, then what happens is empowerment is experienced by everyone at all levels. Now, we keep talking about this beautiful thing called delegation, right? Many years back, I just remembered now, I think I should talk about this, is people talk about delegation on multiple formats. One of the best definition of delegation is called deputizing. Now, what is deputizing? When I deputize Samrat as my deputy, it means I have exited the place and Samrat has got the complete freedom, will, and choice to take decisions in my place. And when he does it, I don't go and question him, why did he not seek my permission? Because I believe that he is somebody who is completely aligned to the system and what we want to deliver. That level of empowerment, when he experiences, he feels connected.
Correct.
And this kind of a connected leadership across multiple people in an organization creates such level of interdependencies that in the world that we are, where it is no more about one savior going on a horse and rescuing a situation, it is not that leadership. It's more about all of us coming together and solving a situation on hand. So when this is what is being promoted over the years, this connected leadership as a concept has become very, very powerful. And establishing that in organizations definitely creates a high level of loyalty because everybody is working towards one common purpose.
True.
If that answers the question.
That answers the questions very well. And trust me, I think this is, and people are commenting in the box. I could see that it's a very different format, very interesting format. Thank you so very much for staying along with us and listening to us, answering and questioning the questions that have come from your end. I really wish I could take all the questions and keep on answering those questions just to the point. If you have any further questions, sincere apology because we would not be able to go through all the questions considering the best interest of time for everybody, but we'll try our level best because we still have execution and lifelong learning is still, the segments are still left. If you would like to still ask your questions, you would be more than happy to reach out, or you shall be more than happy to reach out to Rajeev directly on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to Team HRAI to have those questions of yours answered in a very crispier manner. So I would encourage all of you that if you don't feel bad, don't get disheartened because you are seeing one question, we have 3 more questions clubbed together, right? So please do bear with us because our endeavor is to ask all the questions on your behalf and get the to the point answer. Well, moving on to execution, the 4th segment of this particular webinar today and the discussion point, Rajeev. From the execution per se, what do you mean by execution excellence and how do we achieve that?
Okay, that's a very interesting question.
And what are the ways to achieve excellence in execution?
Definitely. First of all, is understand what is execution excellence. Right. I think one particular book that all of you should go and pick up and read is a book called Eat the Frog. It's called Eat the Frog by a person called Brian Tracy. And this man is called the father of time management. He has done 28 years of research and work only on one topic, which most of us discount as not a very heavy topic called time management. And understand, guys, it's one of the most fundamental leadership skills.
Right.
Isn't it? Now, that's where this comes in. Execution excellence is all about making a needle shift from accomplishments to activities. And Brian says it's important for individuals and organizations to start focusing on completion of activities as against accomplishments. Now, if that kind of a culture is built in an organization, then execution excellence becomes a culture, becomes a way of life, becomes a thought process in such organizations. Now, how do we build execution excellence? Very, very simple. Every employee in an organization, and each of you here who would want to build execution excellence, ask yourself just 3 questions. The first, all day long, what is that one task that if I complete, I contribute to the organization? Second question, all day long, what are those 2 activities if I complete, I contribute to the organization? Third question, all day long, what are those 3 activities that if I complete, I contribute to the organization? And Brian Tracy calls it the law of 3. You cannot do more than this in a day. Rest all is just paraphernalia going around the bush. But these 3 tasks on your table that you are wanting to complete, that will contribute directly to the organization. Right. If you're able to deliver that, that's displaying execution excellence. All of you know this hourglass, right? You keep the goes around like that, right? You see the neck of the hourglass? Only 1 grain of sand can go through that. You can never pass 2 grains.
Correct. That's how the time was calculated, right?
Right. So if you take that for a moment, that as an example or an analogy, 1 task at a time. Don't get on with multiple tasks and clutter yourself. Decluttering and doing 1 task means what? Passing off 1 grain of sand through that neck. वो complete हो गया, then the second one. वो complete हो गया, the third one.
Right.
Once you start doing this, you'll realize by end of the day, you have actually ticked off all the tasks on your table and you have displayed excellence in executing those tasks. And if that happens, you have had a productive day. You will never come and say, how was your day? I mean, I've stopped this many years back. I never say my day was busy. My day is either productive or unproductive. I don't understand what is a busy day.
Correct, correct, correct.
So that's execution excellence for all of you. So guys, focus on activities, not on accomplishments.
And I
If
think
that
people really
happens,
relate to what you're saying, Rajeev, that, thank you, Akansha, Trisha, Parvati, Ritesh, Tushar, Sunil, for your encouraging words. You guys are really making it very, very intensifying and solidifying of conversation by being there. So with that, the very next question coming in your way, that how does executive excellence define leadership and management? I think you answered this to a greater
yeah, I
extent
did. I
in the
did.
previous, so I don't want to specifically ask you this question because you already covered it.
Yeah.
The very last question I would like to ask in execution as a segment would be, how can we enhance the execution capabilities of business leaders to achieve organizational success?
Of business leaders, is it? You'll not believe my answer is not going to be, the moment you say business leaders, don't expect an answer that is going to be strategic. The
Does not,
answer is going to be still the same answer of the previous question.
right?
If all the individuals, whether it is a manager or a deputy manager or senior manager or general manager or a CEO, can ask this question to himself, herself, what is the three tasks that I can do all day long that will contribute directly to the organization?
Right.
I think execution excellence as a culture gets built even at that level. The only difference is that three tasks for a CEO is far bigger than the three tasks on the hand of a vice president or three tasks on the hands of a deputy manager. That's all the different in terms of contextualizing to the role. Whereas these three questions become all pervasive and pertinent for all the three, four levels that I just spoke about across the levels of the organization. If everybody can do that, the entire system moves up by one delta of excellence in execution. Because why? The entire system is looking at two things. One, zero defect
True.
is what we would want to achieve. High quality, that's it. And quality is always binary.
Yeah.
It's either qualitative or it's not qualitative. It can't be partially qualitative. Oh,
Absolutely.
jugaad hai. Oh, jugaad. Oh, Indian jugaad. Oh, nahi chalta.
That's the gray area that most of the people they play around with. Yeah, yeah. Great. With that, very last question in this particular segment in execution. I think I have already asked this question. So many questions. I myself am getting little jeopardized in my head. And the answers are so brilliant, Rajiv. I don't know. Hats off to you. If I would have been the speaker, trust me, I would have just made a mess out of it. But thank you so much. I had my
Thank you. Very humbling.
learning as well. Well, moving on to the very last segment, I think I asked you all the three questions that were supposed to be asked in execution segment. The very last thing, followed by execution, coming to lifelong learning. I mean, as we all know, learning is a never-ending process. We learn till our death.
True.
But
True.
I would be asking you very two powerful questions that we kind of summarize and shortlist. The very first question is, what is the importance of lifelong learning? It's a very subjective question, but what, according to you, would be the importance of lifelong learning?
Very well. I would recommend all the people here to do one thing after this particular session is go to YouTube and just type learning by Bill Gates. Watch that video and what he talks about reading and learning as a habit. Your question is answered. I don't need to answer this question, but I'm forced to do it because I'm a speaker. Let me still try doing that. Bill Gates is somebody who's currently working on a project where he's trying to create energy from human feces.
Right.
Having created Microsoft as an organization and brought computers to every desk of the world, today is working on transforming human beings and energy sector. He's on his way of reading 5 books a week,
Yes.
5 hours a week, 8 hours a week kind of reading, or crazy reading he does, right? What is lifelong learning? I think the best thing about lifelong learning is it helps you to look at a situation as a situation, but not as a problem.
Right.
You don't look at anything as a problem because that word called problem, you just push it off the window. Because a very powerful definition of problem that I read many years back, it said there's no word called problem. Problem is a situation for which you are yet to find a solution. As simple as it. it completely neutralizes the negativity in the world, right?
True, true.
And a lifelong learner absolutely isn't.
Off the top.
It is just what is COVID? It's a problem. No, it's just a situation for which we have yet to find a vaccine. That's it.
Right.
That's
Is it kind of that
very
academia framework which has been created very assiduously to ensure that every problem, if there is a problem, there has to be a solution?
absolutely there is. We are just finding it out. जब तक नहीं मिला हमको लगता है इतना बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है. मिल गया तो solve हो गया.
Correct, correct, correct.
A lifelong learner is somebody who's able to keep picking up learning in multiple formats and opportunities available. The biggest thing that I've had is nothing comes across as a problem. For me, it's just a situation for which I'm yet to find a solution. I think that's the biggest advantage one person can have if you're a lifelong learner. You become that. I mean, you can be the twig that can find out and just come out of the turbulent water and reach the shores. You'll never be drifted with the waters.
True, true.
And one of the very fundamental core values, which has been researched over time for many, many people for their existence as a human race, is lifelong learning. And this one core value, not even a value, so core value, the difference between core value and values can be negotiated sometimes. Core value is non-negotiable.
Non-negotiable,
At
yes.
any cost, I will not let go of it. And lifelong learning is researched as one of the key driving core values for human race. And I think all of us are doing it. The fact is, do we pick up multiple tools quickly to accentuate and increase the speed so that we learn quicker? The knowledge that I want to have at 40, can I have it at 30?
Right.
The knowledge that I have in 30, can I become a learner at 35? If you can do that and shorten it, beautiful, right?
Brilliant, Rajeev. I think what an articulation. Kudos to you for sharing this. With this very last question of the day and of this particular initiative, to the point in the lifelong learning section would be why are people, I mean, it's a very little jovial question. I really love this question, Rajeev. I think that's how we would end it by asking why are people involved in social media and online games these days so much? And we, how can we take advantage of these to facilitate lifelong learning?
Do we have a phone a friend option? I'll call my son. He's the best man to answer this. I can't answer this. He's into all the Nintendo and PS4s and all that. Can he answer on behalf? I don't think I can answer this because I don't understand shit of these games any which ways. Right? Any which. Well, I think it's a, like Darwin says, every generation is 2.7 times intelligent than the early generation. That's a proven fact.
Darwin's, yeah, theory, one of the theories, yeah.
Right. So my son obviously is 2.8 times intelligent than me, and I think I'm than my father. He wouldn't agree to that. That's the theory. But I think today games are a big thing for children. They're all in social media for whatever reason, visibility or gratification, whatever you want to call it. But I think something that I've seen in my son, I keep telling him don't spend so many hours on games. But I think being in social media or in the video games makes one thing, your aggression to achieve something
Right.
is built in very early in your life. Right? You are somebody who's always going towards success. You're always on the winning spree. This is an advantage. Right? You would do everything possible in that what mode is it? Safe mode of playing the game. Try everything, then come back and play the real game and say, अब तो मैं जीतूंगा क्योंकि मैंने safe mode में try कर लिया है.
Correct.
So I see my son trying multiple options, which is good. But the negative side of that is you're so much in your winning spree that you have not built the muscle to accept defeat.
Right.
All of us know the kind of deaths that has happened because of one stupid game called the Blue Whale or something. I don't know what was that.
That was one insanity. Yes.
I mean, I could never imagine somebody dying because he lost the 14th round. I mean, are you nuts? I mean, for me, I can never ever fathom this.
Window or a rooftop just because of a game? I mean, have you totally lost it? Seriously.
So the fact is, whether people spend a lot of time on social media or games, I don't want to comment on that. I'm not authorized or I'm not earned the right to talk on that. But I can definitely tell you the benefits are one or two, like this, which is just articulated. But the negativities are far more. But I think it's good for people to have a balance. That's where I would want to end it, which is again my passion. That guys, from a social media that you spend, it's okay. I also have my phone. I spend some time on LinkedIn, which is important for me as a professional platform to grow my business.
Right.
Guys, move out of the social platform, go back to books, This is far more rewarding in the
Yes,
long run than this.
and this
Do
true.
not take the shortcut of a Kindle. Have the physical book. Feel the smell of the pages.
It smells really
Far more rewarding for all of you guys.
gratifying. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Great.
know if that answered the question, but whatever it is.
I think you truly meant, I think the audience primarily, I think salute to the audience for asking certain brilliant questions, and hats off to Team HRAI for, combining the questions. I mean,
Absolutely.
me and Rajiv, we were discussing yesterday that we had plethora of questions that is coming in our way. Considering we have already shot up by 9 minutes, Peter has already turned on his video, giving us looks at guys, aren't you know aren't you not checking your watches? But I think it is a great experience, Rajiv. It was indeed a pleasure that I think you left a legacy now. You would be remembered for a very long time for this wonderful insights and session that you've shared in form of your answers of the questions. I think this is a lifelong learning. You forced us to execute certain paramount activities in life which needs to be executed, and you taught us, stay loyal, dude, stay loyal, and take that goddamn accountability. You
Thank you
will.
so much. Thank you so much. That was very humbling, but let me give it back to you an answer saying the legacy is definitely not long because somebody said you are remembered till people find the better person of you or better version of you. Till the next speaker who comes as a far better, I'll be remembered. Uske baad you're forgotten. So I'm just leaving that.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. That was all from my end. Thank you, Peter, for giving me the opportunity to host such a great human being. I have known Raji for some time, definitely, but didn't know this side of his. Had a great share of learning. Pleasure being a part of To The Point initiative. I wish you guys all the very best. Rajiv, over to you. Probably you want to give your message to the audience, to all of us, and then you can hand it over to Peter for him to take it forward.
Definitely. I think kudos to HRA and Ankita. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such a fantastic opportunity, and what amazing topics! It just gave me an opportunity to brush up my thoughts over time, and I think it was beautifully questioned and put across by Samrat. I think it's a great platform. This idea is very nice. 3, 4 very powerful topics quickly being discussed for many people to quickly pen down and go back and reflect. Right, an opportunity for people to reflect being created in a 60 minutes time is not an easy thing.
Absolutely.
It's tough. People like me, we struggle for a half a day workshop to be designed, and 60 minutes mein karna is fabulous work. So Peter, Ankita and team, amazing work. I was happy to be part of this. I hope I could add some value in the last 60 minutes to the listeners, not boring them off to glory.
Absolutely, Rajiv. Amazing conversation. Thank you, Samrat, for taking maximum questions. Thank you, Rajiv, for the brilliant to the point response with beautiful examples and suggesting books. I personally have made a note of all the books that you have mentioned. I see overwhelming response from our participants having all their questions answered. Before we conclude with our today's session, we would also want to thank all the association members, Geisha, LinkedIn Local India and Ahmedabad, GlipTalk, and NASCOM COE for supporting HRAI and its event. To know more about these associations, request you to kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. You can also access the slides and recordings of our today's sessions on our YouTube link shared in the chat window. Once again, on behalf of HRAI, want to thank Rajeev and Samrat for such a wonderful conversation. We hope to see you both again very soon. Do join us for our next Connecting the Dots series on the topic HR Managing Liquid Workforce on the 10th of December 2020 at 3 p.m. IST. Request you all to kindly register for this event at the link mentioned in the chat window. Till then, see you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Well, Sham, thank you so much. We may now conclude with today's webinar.
Sure, Peter. हाँ पीटर,
हाँ
तुमको दूसरे नंबर से भी ज्वाइन होना पड़ेगा जिसको कोच ना बनाओ मैं।
ठीक है ठीक है।